Hello, Magic Gathering players. This is Maelstrom MTG back again with some Budget Modern. And so we have some new inclusions from the new set Midnight Hunt, and it's taken me a little while. I've had some school stuff going on, but now I finally have time to record a video. And it's a little bit of a weird storm deck. If we take a look at Rite of Harmony, Rite of Harmony is the new include, and it's actually what's going to add enough consistency to this deck to actually make it viable. Where Rite of Harmony reads, 2 mana, whenever a creature or enchantment enters the battlefield under your control this turn, draw a card. And then you can flash back for 4 mana. We actually see this in another card called Beckon, where Beck said 2 mana, whenever a creature enters the battlefield this turn, you may draw a card. Now, one thing you'll notice is neither of these actually say non-token, so we do take a little bit of advantage of this, but there are definitely better ways to do this off of a small budget. So keep that in mind, that if you go and try to upgrade this deck, you can definitely include some more token synergies here. There is the possibility of, for example, like Dragon Fodder, 2 mana, create 2 1/1s. But ultimately, I decided to stick with a bunch of 0 drops here. So we have Beckon and we have Rite of Harmony, essentially doing the same thing of whenever a creature enters, we're going to draw a card. We're going to be playing all of these 0 drop creatures, and it's a very fast explanation here, because ultimately Chamber Sentry, you probably want Chamber Sentry to enter as you probably want 1 mana at least on Chamber Sentry and Endless One so that they stay on board. But ultimately, if you're comboing off on 1 turn, you don't need them to be. They can be 0 drops. But Chamber Sentry and Endless One are both 0/0s that are X costs. The idea is that you can play these for 0 mana and draw a card without actually spending the mana to draw a card. Next up is Memnight, which is 0 drop 1/1. This is an interesting deck in the way that you're not actually going to be playing your 0 drops or your 1 drops on turn 1. You're going to be playing your 0 drops or 1 drops on like turn 3 or 4. So we have our Memnights here as a way to 0 mana draw a card, and the fact that it stays on board and it's an artifact is relevant, and I'll get to that in a moment. But we actually also have Ornithopter, and it's the same exact thing. This deck tech, I have a feeling, may end up being far shorter than 8 minutes, just on the sense that we have 14 cards that are all 0 drops in our deck. And we have 8 cards that are our main combo piece that they both do the same exact thing. But the deck is very, very consistent. Even the lands on a budget, like the deck is extremely consistent with all of these cards that are doing the same exact thing. We have White Mane Lion, actually, that says when it enters the battlefield, we can return a creature to its owner's hand. So we'll play this, and we'll actually bounce our own creature. We'll bounce our own Ornithopter, our own Memnight, our own Endless One, our own Chamber Sentry. And that way we actually get even more plays, even more card draw. And the ultimate goal here is that we're eventually going to Grape Shot, or we're eventually going to get some sort of mega value out of it. Our main way of winning is going to be Grape Shot. But then off of White Mane Lion, we get more card draw, and then we have Thought Monitor, and this is how we're gonna get another form of card draw. Is that we have these Chamber Sentries, we have these Memnights, we have these Ornithopters. They're going to fill up the board pretty quickly, and so when we have Thought Monitors and we're starting to run out of things to play, maybe, then Thought Monitor will be a way that we can draw some extra cards off of it. And if we have a Beckon or Rite of Harmony currently in effect, Thought Monitor will actually draw us 3 cards, and it gets significantly cheaper for each creature on the board. Speaking of when we're running out of things to play, we also have Retract, which makes up easily a third of the deck's budget. And Retract will say, return all artifacts you control to their owner's hand. and that's a 1-drop. So the idea is you play all of these, you draw all these cards, and then you can retract back to your hand, and then you replay them, drawing more cards, and each time you cast one of these cards, you're building up Storm. Now, eventually, you're going to be like, okay, I'm playing blue, white, green. How do I actually get the red mana for Grapeshot? Well, you do need the 2 mana available for Burning Tree Emissary. So you might not be able to combo off as quickly as most combo decks can do, or this might be able to do off a budget, but it is still going to be a very, very consistent combo deck. And maybe you play some of these creatures early on just to be on the board, and maybe they can act as blockers, but there's pretty small bodies. But when you retract actually gives you potential to just absolutely just storm out. So you can have a pretty okay early game, and then retract everything back, and then really just combo out in one turn. And you can hit several retracts in one turn. But you'll get Burning Tree Emissary when it enters the battlefield, add a red or a green. If you have multiple Burning Tree Emissaries on board or in your hand, they're essentially 0-drops themselves. So not only are they providing the red filter to give us the red lands, to give us Grapeshot mana, but they're also giving us just more spells for Storm, and more enter the battlefield for our Rite of Harmony and Beckon Call. On top of that, we do have Grapeshot as our main win condition, and so you're playing all these 0-drops, you're bouncing them back to your hand, playing all of them again, and then you're Grapeshotting. If that's not quite enough damage, maybe you can't quite kill them. The goal is 15 life, because if your opponent fetch, shock, shock, that's putting them to a 15 life goal for what we have to hit. And they can play more aggressively. Honestly, by that time, they probably have played a little more aggressively. They might think we're a fringe deck. We are, but they might not really know what to expect, but they probably don't think Grapeshot. So they'll probably go pretty low, so our ultimate goal isn't necessarily that out of reach, but on the chance that we can't kill them, we can swing in flying thought monitors. We do have X cost creatures in case we really need that, but really it's going to be Grapeshot and then swing with thought monitors. We have a 2 of Ocatchers Monument, which it was surprising. It's actually not it's not just some bulk uncommon. It's actually a $2 card, which is actually above the average cost of the card in the deck. But Ocatchers Monument makes our white spells cost less, so it will make White Mane Lion cost 1 less, which is important just in the sense of preserving mana. But more importantly, it says whenever you cast a creature spell, create a 1/1 white warrior. And so that doesn't say whenever you cast a white creature spell, that's whenever you cast a creature spell. So if we have Ocatchers Monument on board, and then the next turn we go Ornithopter, 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 Retract, Ornithopter, 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 Ornithopter. And I'm saying Ornithopter just in the sense of like all of these 0-drop creatures just being a 0-drop creature. If we have just that setup, then we have 4 Ornithopters and 8 Warriors. And so this deck can go very wide very quickly. If you had more money, you could even possibly look at going up on Ocatchers Monuments. It's a little bit of a safer route, but Grapeshot is more of the immediate impact, and it's sort of a one-turn kill. Next up is our Manabase, which is Evolving Wilds, just to kind of help filter us. We're really trying to get certain lands early on. Forest, Island, Plains as the basics of the deck. Temple of Enlightenment to kind of like filter our deck for our combo. Temple of Mastery for the same thing. And Yavimaya Coast to add an untapped source of blue or green, because we don't want all of our dual lands to be tapped. Then leading into our sideboard, we have Graveyard Hate through Tormod's Crypt. We have Autumn's Veil for Control Hate, Gaia's Blessing for Mill Hate, Weather the Storm for Burn, Aggro Combo Hate. We can even use Weather the Storm in our own deck because we will be comboing off. If we're going against Storm, if we're going against Burn, Weather the Storm is absolutely brutal because we go memnight, 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 Weather the Storm, and gain 12 life. Just keep an eye out for Skullcrack. That can kind of rain on our parade a little bit. Then Wilt for some generic artifact enchantment hate that you can also cycle if it's not relevant anymore. And so that's really what the sideboard consists of, and it's a very sweet deck. I'm very happy that that we got a Rite of Harmony, because the ability to play 8 Rite of Harmonies, now 8 beckon calls, it increases the consistency of a deck a lot more, and you're able to play it very, very... It's a surprisingly consistent deck, and you will make your friends hate you and potentially do very well locally. I don't know how this will do in a... I don't know how this will do in a truly competitive environment. There's only so much I can actually test online and say, oh, this is like a true competitive format, because who I go up against will actually genuinely vary a ton. But the deck just feels powerful when you play it. You feel like you shouldn't be allowed to do what you're doing, especially when you hit multiple retracts in one turn. Anyway, the deck is very much a lot of fun to play. If you want to test it out, go ahead. It's $9 on Magic Online. It's just under $100 at $96.81 in paper. So go ahead, give it a try. A lot of the cards in this deck are actually just repeats of other budget decks I play. The majority of the deck comes between, like, half the deck comes between Memnight and Retract, but those cards add such a power to this deck that really they're required. Anyway, I hope you have a nice day, and let me know what you think below.